Show me again. Let me see the earth, the river of life, the current which carried me into this world and led me out into the next, the thread which tethers all things living and dead, and the days, the endless, endless days. They return to me over and over again, and each time I reach the end, I ask to see them once more, just once before I go, before I leave this world forever. For what seemed like ages, I waited in darkness, unceasing, empty, like a long, dreamless sleep. I felt nothing, not even the beat of my heart or the pace of my breath. I could only drift until the blackness broke and a ray of light beckoned from far in the distance, pulling me towards a new world. And then, like a newborn, I surfaced. In a pool of shallow water, I lay supine, able only to see the sky. It was early in the evening. The ether spanned forever in every direction, the light of the sun giving way to deep blue, too early in the dusk for the stars. It was here where I found my bearings again. I had landed on the bank of a river I did not recognize. Beside me was a field, and beyond that, the edge of a forest, immersed in shadows in the dying light. The last rays of sunset were buried behind these trees. The birds and cicadas sang in the approaching night. The wind blew softly. I stood alone. In this lonely place, I have watched and waited. I remember the colors, The azures, the blacks, churning into each other, darker and darker until all light went away. I remember the cold and the current, its powerful grip, its wrath as it held me away from the air. And I remember you, with your hand outstretched, with fear in your eyes.
We were there.
Did we vanish together?
Yes. We were with each other when the river took us. On Sunday morning, police found the bodies of 15-year-old Jesse Stewart and 14-year-old Alex Russell in the East Falls River. Both bodies were found by a local in the branches of a tree which had fallen in the recent storm. The teens had been declared missing since Friday night, but searches were delayed due to rising floods. Police are still working to understand how the two boys ended up in the river, which has seen severe storm surges in the past several days. In the meantime, they urge residents to stay away from the river until the water levels recede.
On days like today, when the sky is blank white and the air is warm and heavy, you can hear kids laughing through the window. From down the street, their voices come carrying in, and I've only ever seen them from a distance, a boy and a girl. So I leave it open and sit sprawled out on the sofa with the lights turned off, and I listen, looking at nothing in particular. Some days I even fall asleep to it. When I couldn't stand being in the house any longer, I left. I found steady work and started renting here at the other end of the same town I've lived in all my life. I wait tables in the next town over at a place that stays open until midnight. Then I go home. Fall right asleep and stay dead till noon, if I can. Some nights it's hard. Mom stopped by on Wednesday. She walked in and sat with me on the couch and asked if I was doing okay, and I told her I was doing just fine. And then we watched TV while she went on some tangent about her sister. And I'm nodding and watching her lips move, and all of a sudden, like a voice from another room, I can hear myself telling her that I had a dream and you were in it. I was in my bed at our old house, curled up in a ball with the sheets wrapped around me, and you were hanging suspended in the air on your back, staring up at the ceiling. And I tried to reach out and yank you back down to the earth, but my arms couldn't move. I was frozen. Then I woke up. When I tell her all this, she looks away from me and frowns, but doesn't respond until a few minutes later, when she makes a comment about how one of the girls on TV looks. Part of me would like to be mad, but I know that in her mind it's all just a dream, too. To her, you're just away at camp, and the rest of her life is just one endless summer while she waits for you to come home. So she pats me on the shoulder and tells me that I smell like cigarettes and leaves. But on her way out the door, she opens the window. Far off, I hear the laughing of a girl down the street as she chases her brother. Tonight, in my dream, I'll be sitting wrapped up in my towel on the beach, with the green heads buzzing close by, and the wind from the ocean caressing my face, and you'll be out in the waves, on your back, staring up at the sky, and the water will be cold, and it'll be summer.
It's quiet here. It's only us. In this empty place, for years, I wandered, waiting for the day that I could hold you again.
Where is the way that will lead us back to ourselves?
There is none. We can't go back.
Jesse,
Alex,
I remember everything.
show me.
When we were little, we'd race each other down to the end of the shore, the mouth of the inlet open to the waves. We'd walk along the bank upstream, and when we reached the right spot, we'd throw ourselves in and let the current carry us. Over and over we'd drift, downstream on our backs, looking up at the clouds, listening to the roar of the tide close by, cradled by the earth, without a voice or a body, to be weightless like wind, like salt water running out to sea. And when we got tired, we'd swim farther down, and we'd look for the cave, the little outcrop of sea moss and rock, with a hole only little kids could fit through. You'd dive underneath and pull me by the hand until our heads emerged in the dark, where only a sliver of daylight slipped in. We would sit against the rock and see the light play off of the water and onto the ceiling. We'd watch the shapes as they shift and bend, and we'd hide ourselves in the shadows with the world far away. He'd never let go of my hand, not until we swam back to the light. Sarah, we were there, with each other.
In the dead of summer, I would stray from the empty house and explore, out through the brush in the backyard, along the dirt path to the back road that runs to the edge of town. The cars would pass near the woods, and I'd try to race them. I went further and further from home each day, always testing how far I could go and still find my way back. But each time I went, I would find myself stopping at the fields where the old barn sat untouched, rotting at the bottom of the hill. The siding was cracked and coated with moss and lichens. The weeds would wind through the cracked cement in the caving foundation. The floor would be caked with old horse shit and hay that was left abandoned by the landowners. And by this quiet place, I would lean my bike against the side wall and sit on the grass and rest, looking out at the endless expanse of the place I had lived my whole life, and imagining one day that I would be far from it all. It occurred to me once I could stay right here. I could hide in the empty barn and sleep in the haystacks or up in the rafters, and no one would ever imagine to look for me there. I could slip unnoticed from the world and spend my life in seclusion. My home would be dirty and hot in the summers, but some days there might be wind blowing through all the cracks in the wood and tall grass, whispering against the walls, and crickets and barn swallows singing in the dark if I woke late at night. I closed my eyes when I sat there and saw so vividly there was another world waiting. But I never went. In the back of my mind, I would always imagine the cold that awaited me lying in the rafters alone. I couldn't escape from my life without someone to shelter my skin from the cold, from the raging winter of the world that had frozen away my parents and would one day take me into its grasp, until I was fixed in the quiet path of my life. So I went back home, where dinner was waiting. Each time, I'd find I was less of a child than when I had left.
When you're young, it never dawns on you what people think of you. It never occurs that you might be different. Everything appears safe, and then suddenly you're older. It stares you right in the face and it scares you. You learn how to hide. At camp, I would always go missing. On days when kids would be out on the lake or in the cabin talking shit, I'd be out in the woods, or I'd sit in my own private spot by the water and rest, watching light bounce off the lake's surface and dance in little flecks against the rocks on the water's edge. I was really at peace. It was only when I made my way back to the cabin with the other boys that I started getting scared. When I'd sit with my book on my bottom bunk and try to bide time until dinner, and they'd be crowded by someone else's bed, howling, shoving, secure. Every now and then, I catch a glance in my direction. A whisper, while one of them looked my way, a laugh stifled in a sleeve. And whenever it happened, I'd freeze. My mind would go blank and my breathing would slow. And I'd try to pretend I hadn't heard what they said. In the back of my mind, for years, I would always wonder what it was about me that they saw and didn't like. I could never understand. but on my own, I was happy. On my own, I felt like a piece of the earth, the same fabric as the trees and the water and the air. Even the other boys, when they ran to the water or cried late at night when they were homesick. No matter how far I felt from them, I never stopped reading their eyes for the light I could feel in the whole world around me.
The summer would end. The sky would take on that delicate, faint shade of blue that precedes a long winter. At school, I was always afraid. Over years, you retreat into a sort of cold indifference, believing there's no one out there inhabiting the same world as you. No one who sees the light leaving through cracks in the little veneer you put on the fooled other boys. Everything turns automatic. You learn how to dress the part, to stand the right way, and to say the right things. And you become so adept that no one can picture it's not really you. And amidst this life, the world inside you shrinks to a little dark room where only glimpses of another world break through, now and again. When he meets my eyes, reminding you that while your room lies empty, there are other rooms waiting. Was it there that I saw you first?
I was careful. My voice became hushed, my movements subdued. But my eyes grew accustomed to the dark place I found myself in. I learned to see details that passed unnoticed, like the way light landed in rays on shadowed walls, and the song of the first birds to wake when the sun rose, and people, all the little idiosyncratic ways they moved and spoke and lived, like a starving child in a supermarket, trying to fathom the endless arrays of people in their inner worlds. I wanted so desperately to join, to live the way other people lived, untempered. And there he was, beckoning me out with his eyes, with a look that said, if I could only learn to face the world afraid, I could live forever in the light of his love. Time went on. I felt certain I could stay fixed as I was, but his eyes waited all the while, washing me over with bliss, bringing me closer to the brink of life. In the morning, the rain had gone. We had practice on Saturdays, too. Coach sent us out to the trail and we'd run it over and over again. Fog was rising from the earth and the woods were quiet. The trick was to let your mind slip away from your body, just placing one foot in front of the other, always accelerating, always glancing away at the next landmark to place yourself on the path you've been told to follow. And so you imagine as often as you can that you're somewhere dry, lying still, breathing lightly. But try as I could to ignore you, I felt your presence behind me. rhythmic slap of your wet soles into the mud, over roots and branches, closer to me. I kept running faster. My calves ached with the pleasure of being chased, but I would not look back and let you see the desire in my eyes. Until my legs gave in. Until I could run no longer.
Your skin was so pale, your cheeks flushed, your lips trembling, your feet pacing endlessly back and forth. I had watched you and waited, and now I stepped towards you, scared, thinking, here's my life, my other world, awaiting in your arms.
And I was so afraid. Your eyes met the core of my soul. I felt you come closer and closer. My good sense shattered in the warmth of your touch, and I found myself not letting go. My lips tasted yours, and the forest grew distant, and we were alone, together for the very first time. Then we ran back to join with the others, and the woods were silent for miles forever.
Now the sun's going down. The trails are dark. We're here with each other, but all I can see is the sky, and all I can hear is the water rising.
On nights when I can't sleep, I walk to the store. I toss in bed for a couple of hours, and then I go out, and the street lamps along the sidewalk guide me to the middle of town. All the shop fronts are empty, except for the liquor store tucked in the center. I walk around back, and Luke Benning is there, handing out pills for cash on his break. Every time I see him, he tells me how sorry he was to hear about my brother, forgetting he said it before. But I tell him thanks, and I take my pills and keep walking down the road to the empty office buildings. It's deathly quiet. I feel my pulse in my ears. I walk up to the windows and peer inside at the empty desks, and the hallways, and the blank gray carpet that peels in the corners. The leaves whisper in the wind, and sometimes break off and scrape along the pavement. Everything old and falling to pieces and streaked with light. And I'm there in the parking lot, staggering, seeing the stars as they slow to a standstill. It's all so peaceful. A world with no one in it. The nights are my shelter. Sometimes I sleep right there and wake when the sun comes up before people arrive and life goes on at its ancient, unmerciful pace. Alex, my light. I will break in the midst of this life.
In the morning, the shaft of light through the window would land on the bed, and we'd lay in the center of it, wrapped in the quilt I'd slept in since I was a kid, threadbare at the edges and rough in the middle. For years, it had made me itch. I'd toss in the bed, trying to fall asleep. But when Alex was there, it felt different. Flimsy and harmless. I slept like a baby with him. The quilt would smell like his hair and his cheap deodorant after he left. My parents didn't pry. They figured he was just a friend coming over to spend the night. We'd watch TV in the cellar till late, laughing at something stupid someone had said at practice, talking at length about nothing, holding each other, taking turns being the one who's held. What it feels like to be seen completely, to see oneself in the eyes reflected of someone who loves you, to know another person in every detail the way you know yourself, to be real, to be his.
When I'm with him, all the noise in the world falls away, and even the birdsong outside feels 1,000 miles apart from us. The panicked pace of my heart slowing to a standstill when I lay next to him, feeling the orbit of the earth in the walls of his chest. Here is the comfort I searched for all my life. Here is a new life, one that will not pass quickly or painfully. In the corner of my mind, I dread the end, remembering in every moment that there was a world to go back to. Yet the warmth of his touch made me feel I could forever endure an unfeeling world, so long as I had a home to return to where he was. If this bliss will not last, let me bury my eyes against your skin and feel the seconds pass like hours. Let me forget that a world exists apart from us.
Alex, I see you. The house is quiet. The memories twist and ache inside me, but in them I'm frozen the way you are in a dream. Every muscle in its fixed position, every choice, every word unmalleable. I'm in agony. I should have known.
Our house stood wrapped in unknowing, our parents unable to ever understand or see. Can a person love someone they cannot see? I kept my secret so dutifully, like a good son, hiding politely and waiting. The ones who brought us into this world in love with one to come. Our father awaiting the world where I would be a man. or mother for seeing the face of the girl I would marry. I tried so hard to break their dreams gently. But sooner or later, I knew I would have to leave. My home could not be here in this house. It was somewhere with Jesse. He felt the same. My only anchor was you. I can still feel you there in the doorframe, your hair tangled up in the heat of the evening, the whole world outside slowing, frozen. The yellow light from the hall coming in, catching on a teardrop. Only one. What a quiet world.
In my dreams, I imagine these moments again. The comfort I could not give. The paralysis. I would give up the rest of my life to return and hold you the way a sister should. Instead, I can only see you, your broken heart, feigning sleep as you wait for Jesse to take you off into the silent night.
The wind picked up. The branches stirred, but the woods were empty, waiting. Neither of us spoke. We walked together beside the road that led up into the hills and away from town. When cars came by, we would crouch behind trees and listen until they were gone. In the dark, I looked back to see Alex's eyes, and they glistened in the light from the poles. I took him by the hand, and we crept through the woods, through the fields, to the barn as the rain came softly down.
Jesse slept against my shoulder. I felt the warmth of the blood in his cheeks. The storm spat rain through holes in the roof, and it made little puddles in the hay. The lightning would flicker through cracks in the door and scatter along the walls. The hay made me itch, but I held him and thought about where we would go. The storm would pass, and one day we would be someplace warm and quiet and far away.
And we could stay there for the rest of our lives, in a house of our own, with a family of our own. And there'd be laughing. In the summer, the wind would blow through the windows softly, and the kids would be running in the yard, laughing and whispering. We'd be with each other, watching, waking in the same bed. We'd grow up together, the two of us, off in our own little world. But these were just dreams from ages ago. The sun's coming up. The river's calling.
I'm there laying next to you, floating. The ceiling is see-through. The sky is a deep, roaring blue. It's light at the edges and dark in the center, and yawning, gasping, winding its way to eternity. The days slip quietly by and they vanish off over the bend of all that ether. It's all you can do not to let yourself drown in it, feeling your feet unmoored from the movement of time for a scant few seconds. The bliss of shedding the weight of being. First, I wouldn't answer the phone, then the door. The world became safe again, separate from time, stripped of significance. Only memories bearing me softly along. And as I pass, I scrape at the sunken fragments of the life we shared, searching an entrance back. But as years go by, the memories of you ring fainter, like echoes in empty space. The weight of the world falls away. I can't carry it.
Sarah.
I hear you.
I have to get going. You have to stay.
Where is the place where we would vanish?
Swallowed by the sea.
Spare me, my light, from the pain of being here. Take my hand.
The window is open. Away in the distance, there's music playing. For as long as you live, it will guide you. I will sing to you from the other world, in the wind, in the waves, in laughter, until we meet again.
My baby brother. Through the river of this life, I will wait and listen for your song.
Look there. The town is asleep. All the lights in the bedrooms are out, and the stars drift silently up in the heavens. The storefronts are empty. The forest will stir. I'll never be back here again. I'll never come home. They'll find us together and guess at the love we felt, but our words, our shapes, will exist only in the remembrance of those who saw us. There's sadness in going, even with Alex there. But this is the current that carries the world, the bliss of being. Nights that pass in peaceful sleep, and days that pass in a river of laughter, sorrow, and love. Until we arrive in the next world, wherever it may be.
And in the morning, the rain will be gone. The fog will be rising, and Jesse and I will go down to the banks to swim. And though in my heart of hearts, I realize that life will end at every moment, I'll look to the morning sky, smiling, stumbling ever forward until the end. I'll be with Jesse, and I'll be with God, the hand that stirs the current. I'll sink beside him. I'll spend my days in light. The earth will shift and turn, and the river will carry us out to sea.